how I stay lean without counting a single calorie, and how you can do the same, right? Most people think you have to count calories to get lean. And ironically, most of these people don't lose weight or they gain it back, right? And I tried this as well. I tried counting calories in the past. It did not work for me. All right. And so in this video, I'm going to cover why that doesn't work very briefly, but then more importantly, get into what does work, how to eat properly. I will mention a little bit about my training, but this video is really more on diet. All right. Training's awesome to build muscle, and you should definitely do it. But I have tons of workouts. Obviously, you guys all know that. But when it comes to actually getting lean, it's 80% of it is the way you eat. Okay. So most of you probably follow me on Instagram or social media. So you already know, what my physique looks like because I post workout videos. But for those of you who don't, these are just some pictures. This is inside, good lighting to be fair. This is outside normal lighting, inside bad lighting. And this right here actually is after I had just after I had surgery. All right. So I tore my tendon doing grappling, doing jiu-jitsu, not from the kettlebell workouts. So don't worry about that. Some people ask me, hey man, which workout was it? I don't want to do that one, but that was from a different a combat sport. But I wasn't able to work out so this is me. You can see I lost some upper body muscle from not being able to work out for a month and a half. Not too much, but a little bit, but still lean, right? Still have my abs, and that's not good. That's not from genetics. That is from eating the right way. All right. So here's the table of contents. I'll also link that down below, but I highly recommend just watching the video all the way through. Okay. So calories in, calories out. This is a lot of fitness people will say this, right? As like their motto. It's like, just count your calories. That's all that matters. But actually what you eat is more important than counting calories. The thing is, we're not robots, right? And I even put a study in this. I usually don't like using studies because I think a lot of them are, they have ulterior motives or they're funded by people who are trying to push a certain agenda. But this actually was a study done by in cell metabolism, and this is published on Harvard's website, so you can go check that out. And basically, they gave participants one group they gave clean food, basically unprocessed food, and the other or minimally processed, and the other group they gave ultra processed food, and they let them eat as much as they want. That was the rule set, and then after a few weeks, they swapped and did the same thing with the other groups, right? And what they found is that the participants who had the ultra processed food, right, the bad food, ate around 500 calories more per day. Okay. And so when we take away from this isn't rocket science. This makes sense with all the things I talk about. But the key takeaway from this study, and you can go look at the study if you want on your own time, is that food quality matters, right? Not all calories are equal. All right. The brain prefers natural, unprocessed foods, and your body does as well. Your gut does, your whole system. Okay. So calories in, calories out is technically true. People always talk about the law of thermodynamics, but it oversimplifies how the body actually works, right? So you can't ignore your hunger. This is the thing. Counting calories doesn't work because people just think, oh, I'm going to eat in a caloric deficit. But the problem is they're not eating the right foods. And so they're still hungry, right? This is why you're overeating in the first place. Why do people have excess body fat in the first place, right? Because they're eating too much because your body isn't turning off the hunger signals, right? So processed foods fail to basically fill you up properly, right? While natural whole foods help you to feel full and so you don't overeat. That's basically the gist of it, right? Which makes sense, but a lot of people, they just want to ignore that. But you're not a robot, right? If you have a dog or a cat or an animal, you can control how much you feed it, but you can't control that for yourself, which is why it's important you just eat natural foods, and you should probably give your pets natural foods too. Anyways, all right, so section 1, prioritize animal protein. This is the foundation of my meals, so that's beef and eggs. You can see some cheese there as well. I'm not a pure carnivore. I eat other things. I'll get into that in a second, like fruit, dairy, stuff like that. But this is the bulk of my diet is animal protein. Okay, it fills you up. It's extremely nutrient dense. It doesn't cause any bloating. You can get stuffed, but it doesn't cause any bloating. And the crazy thing is, you can't it's so hard to overeat. right? I'll talk about that later, but it's so hard to overeat. You can't overeat a steak, right? So when you prioritize protein first, if you take away nothing from this video, prioritize beef and some eggs in your first meal and have a little bit in your second meal, and you're probably going to see great results just off of that. All right. So section two is adding carbs in, in depending on your activity level. Okay. So that's why I say strategically in the title. So I do eat some fruit. I'm not a pure carnivore, but like you can see a banana right there, and even there's some carbs in dairy as well. But there's no processed carbs. Okay. So no breads, no pastas. And even with fruit, I adjust it based on activity, right? So on a training day, I might eat more fruit, right? I might have a little more of a craving for that. That's fine. Might even have some honey in there. On rest days, I'll have less fruit or sometimes even none. Sometimes on my rest days, I'll just do like a carnivore type day, okay? Or not a type day, a carnivore day, I guess. So sometimes that could be just be meat and eggs, and I also have some cheese as well. I like using cheese. That's optional. But it's when you eat like this, right? If your plate looks something like this, and again, the dairy is optional. If you don't tolerate it, then you don't have to have it. But if you're focusing on beef and eggs and maybe a banana or some berries, you're gonna it, you're gonna feel great. You're gonna feel full. You're not gonna feel bloated. Your body's gonna thank you, right? All right, so it's hard to overeat when you do this because these foods are so nutrient dense. I can even like even if you try to overeat meat, you wouldn't be able to you might be able to do it for a day, but you wouldn't be able to do it consistently, right? And so this is why the carnivore diet gets so many people shredded without counting calories. I feel better when I have some carbs in like fruit and honey, so that's why I don't I'm not recommending just doing carnivore. You can try that out if you want. If you just want to do carnivore, just meat and eggs, and you feel great doing that, that's fantastic. Keep doing that. But for me, I like to take an approach like that where I do meat based, but I still have some carbs on the side from in fruit. All right, so eating out without setbacks, I should say, without snacks, without setbacks. So I eat at home most of the time. This allows me to control not only the main thing, like the beef and the eggs and stuff like that, but also the way it's cooked. Because a lot of places when you go out, they use seed oils and they cook it in things where it's just not that, or maybe the meat's not the best quality, and so I like to avoid that as much as possible. But listen, we're humans. Sometimes you want to go out with your friends or your family. That's fine. There's almost always a way to make it work. So for those of you who are in the West Coast of the United States, may recognize this. This is In and Out. Their protein style In and Out is the double double, or no, this is actually two 3x3s, I think, without the bun, and it's lettuce instead of the bun. I still don't eat the lettuce, but I'll get it with that. They won't give it to me. I guess you could get it just patties, but I tend to order it just like that. Maybe I should order it with just the patties. But yeah, so this is beef, cheese, tomatoes. Tomatoes are technically a fruit, but I think veggies are fine if you want to eat veggies. If you want to eat the lettuce, you can. I'm not a big fan of that, but yeah, and some peppers, which probably are not the best thing for you, but I do like them. So that's an easy way to do it. Burgers, a lot of places now will do lettuce wraps instead of the typical bun. So that's a great option. Or you can always just remove the bun and not eat it. Um, and so that burgers are solid. A lot of restaurants obviously just have steak or chicken or fish, and you can get that with veggies on the side or maybe fruit if they'll do that. If they'll do a swap. But there's almost always an option for eating out. Okay, so don't overcomplicate it. Avoid the bread and avoid the pasta, and you can be very salt focused on animal protein. That's the gist of it. Right. Now, if you have to have a cheat meal, all right, cool, that's fine. Just have a strategy with it. Let's say, like, hey, James, you know what? I want to have my pasta. Me and my family, maybe, we do pastas on Sunday, or we go out on Friday to this place, and I want to have a cheat meal. All right, cool. Fine, have that cheat meal, especially for social occasions. But just be aware of what you're doing and have a strategy. So, something I like to do is have a fast either the next meal or the meal before that. Meaning, so I eat two meals a day. I'll talk about that more in a second. But let's say it's Friday. I'm going out with my friends or my family, going to have a meal. And I know I'm going to cheat. Maybe I'm going to have a beer. Maybe I'm going to have like some bread or some pasta or whatever. Fine. All right, cool. What I'm going to do is instead of eating, I usually eat like a breakfast slash lunch or my first meal and my second meal. Since my second meal is going to be a cheat meal, I just won't eat my first meal. I'll just fast. Right. And boom, then I can have my cheat meal guilt free, and it's not going to affect um, my physique or my health, right? Because the fasting is going to offset that. Or let's say it's unplanned. Cool. Let's say you had your first meal, your second meal was a cheat meal, then the next day you fast for your first meal. Okay. So if you have this as a strategy, then you're going to be much more conscious and much more aware about how you do your cheat meals. Okay. All right, so my daily eating schedule. So, like I just mentioned, I eat two meals a day. The first meal anywhere from around 11 to 1 p.m. And of course, these are ranges. I don't eat for 2 hours. And the second meal from around 5 to 7 p.m. more or less. All right. So I like to do for my first meal. Sometimes I'll just do more. Sometimes they'll be equal, but generally the first meal will be a little bit lighter. The breakfast, lunch, whatever you want to call it, and the second meal, the dinner will be a little bit heavier. Okay. And so I do like to do, sometimes I'll just do like meat, like ground beef and some cheese for my first meal, maybe an egg or two, maybe a few eggs. All right. And then the second meal, maybe I'll have a little more carbs with it. All right. Now, if I did a crazy hard workout, did like, an hour long like session that's longer than normal or just harder than normal, then I might add a little bit of carbs, a little bit of honey in the first meal. But generally, I really like to do it like this. Okay. So this keeps me energized, keeps me focused. I don't do any snacks or grazing. If I had to, getting some cheese and that grazing on cheese could be fine. That could be an option. Um, but I typically don't really do that. Yeah, so it's not really doesn't have to be ground beef. Sometimes it's chicken. Sometimes it's pork, but not too often. But generally, ground beef is my go-to just because it's so easy to make. Right. And a pro tip: you can make a bunch of ground beef for your lunch. All right, and then you can preheat a little bit, or not preheat. You can like half cook a bunch of other ground beef for your dinner if you just want to make it super simple. So that when it comes time to have dinner, you just throw it back on the pan or even microwave it because it's already kind of cooked, but not all the way. And and then you can have a very quick and efficient dinner. I like to cook. I don't like to always microwave, but sometimes if you're busy, especially a lot of you guys are busy parents, busy with your career, it can be an effective way to get a healthy meal in quickly. All right. Okay. So training. So this video is not heavy on training. I have all my other videos pretty much are I have a lot more details on that. But just for those of you who may be new to my videos or my content, I train 3 or 4 times a week from home. Generally just with one kettlebell, body weight. Sometimes I use two kettlebells and do doubles, but generally one, especially nowadays. So with kettlebell workouts and calisthenics like push-ups, pull-ups, stuff like that. I like to combine my workouts, so resistance training and cardio all in one session. I don't go to the gym, don't commute, no waiting for equipment. That's too inefficient for me because I'm busy, just like most of you probably are. And so doing it from home, combining all aspects of fitness. So not just hypertrophy, excuse me, like the bodybuilders, not just endurance like a marathon runner, but all these things combined into one efficient session. All right. And so this is what has worked very well for me. And if you're not training like this, I highly recommend you go pick up a kettlebell and try it out and try some of my workouts out. But I'm pretty sure most of you probably are. Okay. So the recap: high protein, animal protein. I like to focus on beef, natural carbs like fruit and honey. But especially if on the days where you're working out harder, you can have a little more of that. And the days where you're not working out as much or it's a rest day, then reduce the fruit. All right. Even try carnivore days on days where we're not doing workouts. 2 meals a day, and my training is very, very efficient. Okay. So that's how I stay lean without counting a single calorie. This way of eating fills you up. It satiates you, doesn't tire you out, right? Doesn't bloat you. Okay. So if you want my full step-by-step plan, especially more training information on training, I have another video, How to Transform Your Body in 90 Days, full guide. That's the title. All right. So I'll try and link that around here somewhere. I'm sure some of you have already watched that, but if you have not, I highly recommend you watch that because that goes into a lot more detail in terms of my training and different workouts and stuff like that. Right. But yeah, guys, this is the guide. This is how to eat correctly to stay lean without counting calories. Pretty much anyone, when I've coached people and they're eating like this, but then they tell me they're eating like this, but it turns out they're not. They have a bunch of other junk in their house. Get rid of the junk food. Only have good foods in your house. Eat like this, and I promise you, you're going to shed body fat. Right? That's the game plan. That's it. But if you want more help, right? You want me to help you personally get in the best shape of your life, then you can also schedule a link with me. Schedule a call with me with a link down below. Okay, guys. But this video has the information you need. I will do more videos on eating and get into some more details on cooking and how to prep your meals and stuff like that. If you guys are interested in that type of content, but this is the go-to guide, right? You have the information. If you want more help, you can book a call with me, and I can train you, and I'll get you in the best shape of your life. But whether you want to book a call with me and work with me, or you just want to do it on your own, you have the information, right? This is the information. It's simple, it's effective, um, and it's up to you now. So will you do it? I don't know. I hope you will. I know you can do it, but that's up to you. Anyways, much love to all of you. Until next time, Godspeed.